This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
Next on the 5 o'clock report.
A total of 20 victims.
I was on my deck. I heard the shots.
A huge barrage of missiles and drones.
Dumbstruck by how little oversight.
Okay, so you don't need to hold it down fuel or anything like that?
Now, let's go to the newsroom.
Left to wonder why. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Mark Webster. The plight of victims and families after Wednesday's assault on the Minneapolis Roman Catholic Church. Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara.
A total of 20 victims, including the 8 and 10-year-old who were killed yesterday. 15 of the injured are children between the ages of 6 and 15. 3 of those injured are adults in their 80s.
O'Hara says more than 100 rifle shell casings were found at the scene. This dad lives nearby. He has 2 young girls at the school there. He tells WCCO.
I was on my deck. I heard the shots. I pulled into the parking lot. The shots were still going off. I saw a dad who works at the school, and I said, "Is the school locked down?" And he said, "There's a shooting at the church." And he said, "And all the kids are in there." And I just felt like I was going to throw up.
He did eventually find his daughters alive.
Searching was easily the worst feeling I've ever felt. I just needed to find you. It felt so much relief when I did.
The shooter, a biological male living as a woman, was a former student of the school, his mother a former employee. The sounds of explosions rocking Kyiv during last night's Russian attack on Ukraine's capital, leaving at least 15 dead, many more injured. The BBC's Katie Watson is in Kyiv.
People in Kyiv are far from the front line, but they're never far from the effects of war, especially overnight when we saw this huge barrage of missiles and drones.
Officials say over 20 locations across Kyiv were hit, leaving thousands without power. Ukraine's president says the attacks clearly show Russia is not interested in negotiating a peaceful end to the invasion of Ukraine. The CDC comes down with a case of chronic strife. HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. says the health agency is, quote, in trouble. His comment comes after its director, Susan Monarez, was fired, and several top CDC officials have resigned over a reported clash with Kennedy over what they call an unscientific vaccine recommendation process. Former CDC Director Dr. Richard Besser tells CBS it's part of a disturbing trend.
Dumbstruck by how little oversight Congress has shown to the devastating moves that this administration has taken when it comes to public health.
The White House said Monarez was not aligned with President Trump's agenda. Meantime, Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook is suing Trump after he moved to fire her. The suit is the start of a legal battle between the two sides that will likely end up in front of the U.S. Supreme Court. It follows a Justice Department criminal investigation into the board governor after she was accused of making false statements on home mortgage applications. A settlement by Delta Airlines in an incident over the skies of Los Angeles 5 years ago. On that day, a Delta jet experiencing engine trouble was prepping for an emergency landing that often involves dumping off excess fuel.
Okay, so you don't need to hold it down fuel or anything like that? Negative.
But they did dump fuel, thousands of gallons of jet fuel that landed on people, cars, and houses below. Delta will now pay affected parties $79 million and pay for testing to detect any lingering contamination, says the resident's attorney.
They should have not executed it the way that they did. That was extremely important to them because it restored the value of their biggest asset, which is their home.
Some of that jet fuel landed on a school playground where kids were outside for recess. Some praise from D.C.'s Democratic Mayor Muriel Bowser on the impact of federal law enforcement now working with district police.
The difference between this 20-day period of this federal surge and last year represents a 87% reduction in carjackings in Washington, D.C.
However, Bowser says she still has deep concerns about residents who are living fearful over the federal law enforcement presence on their streets. In health news next, a possible link between how our kids eat and how well they breathe.
A Children's Hospital of Philadelphia study found fatty foods that cause obesity can also cause lung inflammation in children. Researchers say these dietary fats, often found in processed foods, can even cause asthma in children who aren't obese.
CBS's Michael George. People are already getting an early start on travel for the long Labor Day weekend. Aixa Diaz with AAA tells CBS tens of millions of American travelers are going to find some pleasant surprises out there.
Domestic flights, hotels, and car rentals are cheaper, not cheap, but cheaper than they were last year.
Nationally, the current price per gallon of gas, $3.21. New York, a little lower at $3.17, a little higher in Pennsylvania, a dime higher at $3.31. Well, if you're riding the rails for the weekend, there's a faster option now showing up on some East Coast routes. New Amtrak Acela high-speed trains. How fast?
160 miles an hour is slower than the fast trains in Asia or Europe, but part of that is because of the tracks they're running on. Japan's bullet train, the high-speed rail in Europe, those trains can go fast because the tracks basically run in a straight line.
Transportation reporter Chris Van Cleve. Most tracks here, many laid over a century ago, frequently curve as they wind through communities. 28 of those speedier Amtrak trains should be in service by the end of 2027. Still to come here on the 5 o'clock report, we'll have a recap of some of the day's top local stories and a reflection on the legacy of Dr. James Dobson.
I'm Kevin Williams, and here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. For tonight, mostly cloudy or becoming so, with showers crossing the area and a thunderstorm for some. Low temperatures mainly in the 50s. Tomorrow, a cooler day than it was today. Variable clouds, sunny breaks, a few widely scattered showers, and a gusty breeze for some. High temps 60s to low 70s. Saturday, cool but pleasant, good deal of sunshine. Slight chance of an afternoon shower, especially near Lake Ontario. High temperatures Saturday, 60s and low 70s. Then mostly sunny and modestly warmer for Sunday and for Monday, Labor Day.
Very good, Kevin. Thank you very much. Now, checking the top stories making news across New York and Pennsylvania. Well, that calendar is about to flip over to September, and New York State Police are reminding people to play it safe when it comes to school buses. They'll be back running their routes next week. Police say drivers need to stop when you see those flashing lights and watch for kids in crosswalks and teach your own kids some good safety habits. The basics, looking both ways before you step out into traffic. With the new school year now just days away, experts are also urging parents to keep an eye out for cyberbullying. Tina Davis, a school psychologist in Central New York, says cyberbullying can lead to teen suicide.
I would really caution parents to monitor, talk with your child about their device use, technology use, talk about the apps, platforms that they're on, who they're talking to online.
Davis says the prevalence of artificial intelligence has only exacerbated cyberbullying and mental health disorders in kids. The state DEC and State Department of Health in New York looking into what's being called a significant fish kill and wildlife die-off along a Cattaraugus County creek. The DEC says it's investigating the situation along Ishua Creek in Franklinville, focusing on the possibility of a discharge of organic waste into the creek. Health officials are advising the public to avoid all contact with Ishua Creek downstream from Franklinville. That includes fishing, swimming, and boating until further notice. Across the border to Pennsylvania, Governor Josh Shapiro calling on state lawmakers in the House and Senate to finally work it out already, come to a compromise and strike a deal on the now 2-month late Pennsylvania state budget.
The leaders in both chambers have to make tough choices. We're down to the part where there's just a few things left, and each of them have to get uncomfortable. And now's the time to do that.
The budget standoff is threatening school funding, hospitals, and nursing homes. The original budget deadline was June 30th. And police in one Pennsylvania county say scammers are dialing for your dollars. Family Life's Brian Query explains that one.
The Eastern Adams Regional Police Department in Adams County is warning about a rise in missed jury duty scams. On August 26th, a resident reported getting an email claiming to be from the sheriff's office saying he had a warrant for missing jury duty. Soon after, the resident got a call demanding $7,000 to clear the fake warrant, with instructions to meet in a parking lot for the exchange. The victim did not pay and instead alerted police. Authorities remind residents that no government agency will ever ask for money, gift cards, or cryptocurrency to resolve legal issues. Brian Query, Family Life News.
Thank you, Brian. Up next, highlights from today's Faith Under Fire feature as our Sarah Harnish speaks with PA Family President and CEO Michael Gear about the rich legacy of the late Dr. James Dobson, founder of Focus on the Family and a longtime champion for traditional family values.
Dr. Dobson was a remarkable man who left an indelible imprint on families and children across America, on parents, on churches, and on government as well, not only across America but around the world, starting with his book Dare to Discipline, which really pushed back against sort of the permissive ideology that came out of people like Dr. Benjamin Spock back in the 50s and 60s, really returning people to biblical values in terms of how they parent their children. His impact is tremendous. Not surprised at the pushback from those who disagree with those worldviews of the news media and other things, but people listening to this broadcast and people who knew of Dr. Dobson because of the 7,000 plus radio stations that his broadcast came into, they know better. They understand the common sense wisdom and the biblical wisdom that he was presenting to families across America.
The thing that concerned me the most was that for every headline that praised his work on biblical values, there were 5 that slapped labels on him. Do you think that he'll be remembered as one that changed the tide, or somebody that pushed people farther from biblical values because of his unwavering approach to absolute truth?
Well, yeah, his approach to truth was something that he was steadfast in. He kind of had his hand to the plow and just kept pushing and talking about those biblical truths. Common sense values, honestly, that people saw the fruit in the lives of their own children. And the fact that he got criticism from that, from those who have a different worldview or different perspectives, is not a surprise. You know, Jesus told us that we would expect those hatred and negative things from folks who disagree with us. That's par for the course. And what is remarkable about Dr. Dobson is he didn't shrink back from those criticisms. He understood what the truth was, and whether enduring withering criticism or praise from other audiences, he just kept talking about what the Bible says and what common sense says and what his research as a psychologist and experienced pediatric psychologist taught him about the well-being of families and children and what children need, like mothers and fathers and intact families and those kinds of values that create prospering families and a prospering society.
Can you talk more about his legacy and what he leaves behind?
His legacy won't be ultimately known to folks like us until we get to the other side, to heaven, to see the vast impact that he's had. I know for us at Pennsylvania Family Institute, significant impact that he had in encouraging the establishment of groups like ours at the Pennsylvania Family Institute, what we call family policy councils. That was just a small part of his recognizing that the vital role of the family was under attack, and that many of those attacks came from forces in society, including public policies at the state level, that were undermining and eroding the value of the family and those values that uphold the family. And so he encouraged the establishment of these independent state organizations as part of his legacy. But then I think about my own children. They're all grown now and have their own kids, but the legacy of the Focus on the Family broadcast called Adventures in Odyssey, which brought biblical values down to sort of a childlike level in terms of understanding some of the principles of how we are to live and following Christ. His impact just in those two realms is just significant. And then being the advisor to no less than 5 United States presidents on issues related to the family just show some of the remarkable impact that this man had on the lives and future of our country.
Michael Gear with PA Families on today's Faith Under Fire, speaking about the legacy of Dr. James Dobson. Hear the entire feature and all of our original Family Life news features at Apple Podcast, YouTube, Spotify, or at familylife.org. This is the 5 o'clock report on Family Life.
How much is enough to retire? Hi, I'm Rob West with the Faith and Finance Minute. A recent survey asked investors how much they'd need to retire comfortably. In the U.S., 40% said $5 million. Another 30% said at least $3 million. Now, I'm not sure how they define comfort, but don't let those numbers discourage you. You don't need millions to live with peace, purpose, and margin in your later years. Scripture reminds us that true security isn't found in a number. It's found in the Lord. Still, wise planning matters. As Proverbs 21:5 says, steady plotting brings prosperity. So yes, save diligently, invest wisely, but resist the fear that tells you that you'll never have enough. God's provision is real, and contentment leads to peace. Manage your finances wisely with the easy-to-use FaithFi app. Download FaithFi, Faith and Finance from your app store, or learn more at faithfi.com.
All right, still to come, what's all the fuss about? Would you believe tomatoes? We have a very juicy story coming up for you next.
I'm Kevin Williams, and here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. Out and about tonight, look for some showers and a couple thunderstorms as a cold front works in from the north and west. Behind the front, much cooler air arrives tomorrow with unsettled weather. High pressure then builds in for what looks like a nice Labor Day weekend filled with sun. On the front end, it's cool, but it does turn gradually warmer with time. The call for tonight, mostly cloudy or becoming so with showers crossing the area and a thunderstorm for some. Low temperatures mainly in the 50s. Tomorrow, a cooler day than it was today. There are clouds, sunny breaks, a few widely scattered showers, and a gusty breeze for some. High temps 60s to low 70s. Saturday, cool but pleasant, good deal of sunshine. Slight chance of an afternoon shower, especially near Lake Ontario. High temperatures Saturday, 60s and low 70s. Then mostly sunny and modestly warmer for Sunday and for Monday, Labor Day.
All right, thank you very much, Kevin. Finally, at 5, the sound of La Tomatina. It's a wild annual ritual in Buño, Spain, where 20,000 people spend 1 hour pelting each other with mushy tomatoes. Why, you may ask? Well, these folks tell the AP, why not?
I'm here to celebrate the La Tomatina Festival. It's always been a dream. It's been a blast. We all loved it.
It is something different. It's amazing.
A fantastic time, yeah, absolutely great. And everyone's so welcoming. The town's really beautiful. Everyone does such a great job and such great fun.
Well, it all started in 1945 when during another odd event, the annual Giants in Big Heads Figures Parade, one marcher's giant head fell off. That sent him into a rage that eventually wound up at a vegetable stand from which a now angry mob started hurling tomatoes at each other. Well, they decided that was kind of fun, and La Tomatina was born. By the way, organizers say it's not a big waste of food either, since the tomatoes used are grown specifically for the festival. They're not fit for human consumption, would have been tossed out anyway. Afterwards, everyone cleans up in big communal showers. City workers have the joy of hosing down the streets. Happy 80th La Tomatina to Spain. That's the world we live in for Thursday, August 28th, 2025. Thank you again for listening. I'm Mark Webster, Family Life News.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.